Your kid's not going to amount to anything, my sister snorted, not even bothering to lower her voice. I mean, look at him. My parents laughed. Not the uncomfortable kind. The familiar kind. The kind that says we agree without saying it. Only my son didn't. He went quiet. His fork froze midair, then slowly lowered back to the plate. His shoulders folded inward, just slightly. I noticed because I've always noticed small things, burn marks on tables, cracks in glass, the exact moment a child learns how to disappear. That's my flaw. I see too much and stay silent too long. My name is Whitney Palmer. I'm 37. We were sitting at my parents' dining table, the same heavy oak one with a shallow scorch mark near the edge from a candle years ago. I traced it with my thumb without realizing it, grounding myself while my sister enjoyed her performance. She leaned back, smug. Her daughter's elite art school tuition was due in 3 days. I knew because it came out of my account every month. Automatically. Quietly. No thank you. No acknowledgement. Just expected. Kids like that, my sister continued, nodding toward my son. They peak early. Then reality hits. More laughter. My dad dabbed his mouth with a napkin. My mom shook her head like this was playful teasing. I looked at my son.
He didn't look at me.
He stared at the table, jaw tight, eyes bright but controlled. Too mature for his age. Too practiced. Something shifted inside me then. Not rage. Not drama. Clarity. Good to know, I said calmly. Every head turned. I'll cancel the auto payment for your daughter's art school, I added, my voice even, almost polite. My sister stared at me like I'd spoken another language. My dad sucked in a breath. My mom leaned close, whispering sharply, "Enough. Don't embarrass the family." That's when my son finally looked up at me. And I understood. This moment wasn't about money. It was about choosing which child I was going to protect. The silence after my words felt heavier than the laughter before them. My sister blinked once.
Twice.
You're joking, she said, forcing a laugh that didn't land. Very funny. I'm not, I replied. My dad set his napkin down carefully, like he was diffusing something fragile. Whitney, he said, using my name the way he only did when I'd crossed an invisible line. Let's not make a scene. A scene? I asked. She just told my child he was worthless. My mom's eyes flicked to my son, then away. Always away.
She didn't mean it like that.
My son pushed his chair back slightly, then stopped himself. He stayed seated, hands folded tight in his lap. That restraint broke something open in me. My sister scoffed. Oh, please. If you're so offended, maybe your kid needs thicker skin. That was it. I reached for my phone and unlocked it. One motion. Familiar. Practiced. I didn't look at her when I did it. What are you doing? She asked. Removing an expense, I said. My dad stood abruptly. You wouldn't dare. I looked up then. I've been daring quietly for years. My thumb hovered over the screen. The auto payment sat there in plain text, monthly tuition, Elite Arts Academy, recurring since freshman year. My sister had never missed a recital. Never missed a brag. My mom leaned in, voice shaking now. Whitney, think about your niece. I am, I said. I'm also thinking about my son.
Click.
The confirmation banner appeared. Payment canceled. My sister lunged forward, eyes wild. You can't do that. I just did. My son's breath hitched. He looked at me like he wasn't sure whether to trust what he'd just seen. I reached for his hand under the table and squeezed once. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying and freeing. They had mistaken my silence for weakness. And I was done correcting them quietly. My sister's chair scraped back so hard it screamed against the floor. You're cruel, she said, pointing at me like I'd committed a crime. Do you know what you just did to her future? I stayed seated.
Come.
You did that, I said, when you decided my child was disposable. My dad stepped between us instinctively, not to shield my son, but to block my sister. Old habits. Enough, he snapped. Whitney, fix this.
Right now.
My mom nodded quickly. This has gone too far. Call the school. Undo it. I looked at both of them, really looked. The urgency. The panic. Not for the words spoken to my son. Not for his folded shoulders. Only for the money leaving their control. My son whispered, "Mom," so softly it almost broke me. I turned toward him. "You didn't do anything wrong," I said. "Not one thing." My sister laughed bitterly. "Oh, please. You're making him soft." I stood then.
Slowly. "No," I said.
"I'm teaching him that he doesn't have to earn respect by shrinking." My dad's face hardened. "You think you're better than us now?" "No," I replied. "I think I finally stopped paying to be mistreated." My sister crossed her arms. "You owe this family." I reached for my purse and pulled out a folded envelope I'd brought without realizing why. The paper felt heavier than it should have.
"I don't," I said.
"But you owe my son an apology." The room went still. My mom's mouth opened.
Closed.
My sister scoffed. "I'm not apologizing to a kid." I nodded once. "Then this conversation is over." I took my son's coat and helped him into it, right there in the dining room. As we walked toward the door, my dad called after me, voice shaking with something close to fear. "If you walk out like this," he said, "don't expect things to go back to normal." I paused, hand on the door. They already never were. The door closed behind us with a soft, final sound. Not a slam. Not a statement. Just a boundary. In the car, my son buckled himself in without speaking. His hands were steady, but his breathing wasn't. I started the engine and waited a second longer than necessary, letting the heater warm the space between us. "Mom," he said finally, staring straight ahead. "Did I mess everything up?" That question lodged in my chest. I reached over at the red light and rested my hand on his knee. "No," I said. "You survived something you didn't deserve. That's not messing up." He nodded but didn't look convinced. Children are careful believers. At home, I made him hot chocolate even though it was late. He wrapped both hands around the mug like it was an anchor. I noticed a small chip on the rim and silently moved my thumb over it before handing it to him. Another habit. Control the edges. Prevent the cut. My phone buzzed. Then buzzed again. My sister. My dad. Then my mom. I didn't answer. The third message from my mom came through slower, more deliberate. "You embarrassed us in front of everyone." I stared at the screen, then placed the phone face down on the counter. An hour later, after my son was asleep, I opened my laptop and logged into an account I hadn't touched in years. The one that tracked payments, transfers, receipts. Every dollar I'd quietly contributed. Every temporary favor that became permanent. The numbers lined up cleanly. Too clean. I exported the file and saved it to a folder labeled documentation. Not revenge. Preparation. Because what they didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask, was that the art school payment wasn't the only thing tied to my name. It was just the most visible thread. And once you pull one thread, the rest don't stay hidden for long. The next morning, my sister called before I'd finished my first cup of coffee. I let it ring. Then she texted, "You have no idea what you've done." I almost replied. Almost. That's my weakness. Thinking explanation will change people who benefit from misunderstanding you. By noon, my mom showed up at my door. She didn't knock at first. She stood there, shifting, until I opened it myself. Her eyes went immediately past me, scanning for my son. "He's at school," I said before she could ask. Her shoulders loosened. Not relief, for him. For herself. "You humiliated us," she said, stepping inside without being invited. "Your sister was crying all night." I closed the door calmly. My son didn't sleep either. "That's not the same," she snapped, then caught herself. Lowered her voice. "You made it about money." "No," I said. She did. "I just stopped paying." My mom folded her arms. "Family doesn't punish family." I laughed softly. It slipped out before I could stop it. "Family doesn't publicly destroy a child's confidence either." She looked away. Always when the truth got close. "Your sister's daughter might lose her spot," she said. "Do you want that on your conscience?" I walked to the counter and opened the folder on my laptop. The spreadsheet glowed back at me. Years of transfers, tuition, emergency funds. I want this off my conscience, I said, turning the screen toward her. Her eyes widened as the totals scrolled past. What is all this? She whispered. This, I said, is everything I paid so I could be tolerated. She sank into the chair. And here's the part you don't know, I continued. Several of those payments weren't gifts. They were structured loans. Documented. She looked up sharply. Loans? Yes, I said. With signatures. Her face drained of color. And in that moment I knew the power in the room had finally shifted, not because I raised my voice, but because I'd kept the receipts. My mom stared at the screen like it might accuse her out loud. You wouldn't, she said finally. Not angry. Afraid. I already did, I replied. I just never collected. She stood up abruptly. This is insane. You were helping. That's what families do. I was covering, I said. There's a difference. She paced the kitchen, hands fluttering uselessly. Your sister didn't know. That was the point, I said. If she'd known, she would have demanded more. My mom stopped pacing. You're going to ruin her. I closed the laptop. The soft click felt decisive. I'm giving her a chance to learn what accountability feels like. She shook her head. You're punishing her because she hurt your feelings. I looked her straight in the eye. She hurt my child. Silence snapped tight between us. My mom lowered herself back into the chair, smaller now. What do you want? She asked. An apology? I thought about my sister's laugh. My dad's silence. My son's folded shoulders. I want respect, I said. And distance. My mom swallowed. And if we can't give that, then you'll stop benefiting from my generosity. She nodded slowly, like she was doing the math in her head, and didn't like the result. My phone buzzed. A new email notification. Subject: Tuition status update. I didn't open it yet. My mom's eyes flicked to my phone. Is that from the school? Yes, I said. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Whitney, please. I stood. You should go. She hesitated, then reached for her coat. At the door, she turned back. Your sister will never forgive you. I met her gaze, calm. I stopped asking her to. When the door closed, I finally opened the email. The words inside weren't dramatic, but they were final. The email was brief, polite, clinical. Tuition balance outstanding. Enrollment pending resolution. No blame. No emotion. Just consequence. I forwarded it once. To my sister. No message attached. Her call came less than a minute later. I let it ring until it stopped. Then again. Then my dad. By evening, they were all outside my house. My sister paced the porch like a caged animal. My dad stood stiffly near the railing. My mom hovered behind them, wringing her hands. I watched through the window for a moment longer than necessary, counting my breaths, grounding myself in the quiet. When I opened the door, my sister exploded. You did this on purpose, she screamed. You're ruining her future. I didn't raise my voice. You did that when you mocked my son. My dad stepped forward. Whitney, enough. This has gone far enough. For who? I asked. For the family, he said. I looked past him to my sister. Apologize, I said. To my son. Clearly. Sincerely. She laughed, hysterical. You're holding my daughter hostage. No, I said. I'm holding a boundary. My mom finally spoke. Please, she whispered. Say you're sorry. We can fix this. My sister's face twisted. She looked at me like she hated me. Like she needed me. I'm sorry, she said finally, fast and flat. There. Happy. I waited. My son stepped up beside me then. He hadn't been there when I opened the door. He'd been listening. He looked at her and said quietly, You didn't mean it. The silence that followed was devastating. My sister opened her mouth. Closed it. Nothing came out. I nodded once. That's your answer. I closed the door gently, locking it. And for the first time, my son stood a little taller. Not because someone paid for him, but because someone chose him. The porch light stayed on long after they left. I watched from the hallway as their shadows dissolved into the driveway, my sister's heels striking the concrete too hard, my parents moving slower than they ever had. Not defeated. Exposed. Inside, my son sat on the couch, knees pulled up, hands tucked into his sleeves. He didn't ask if it was over. Kids know when something fundamental has shifted. Did I do something wrong? He asked quietly. I crossed the room and sat beside him. The couch dipped, familiar and solid. No, I said. You told the truth. He nodded, absorbing it like a new rule of the world. The next morning, I reopened the email thread and sent one final message, to the school, not my sister. I confirmed payment for 1 semester only, under my name, with a note attached, no further involvement from third parties. It wasn't generosity. It was intention. My sister never apologized again. My parents stopped calling. The silence returned, but it was different this time. It didn't punish me. It protected us. At dinner that night, my son talked about a project he wanted to build. His voice was tentative at first, then stronger. I listened without interrupting, without correcting. I didn't laugh at the wrong parts. Later, as I cleared the table, I noticed my phone face down on the counter. No notifications. No demands. I left it there. The revenge wasn't canceling the payment. It wasn't the receipts or the spreadsheets or the locked door. It was teaching my son, by example, that dignity isn't something you wait for others to grant you. It's something you choose, even when it costs you comfort. Especially then.